Good morning. It is truly a pleasure to welcome President Milatovic to the European Parliament. Jakov, having you here today could not have been more timely. It comes just 2 weeks after you, dear President, hosted so successfully Montenegro's very first EU Western Balkans Summit, giving fresh momentum to enlargement, of which this institution is a big fan. Following yesterday's additional important decisions on starting accession negotiations with Moldova and Ukraine, this House will later on this afternoon debate the European future of the Western Balkans, and on Thursday during the European Council we will discuss the concrete next steps. The message is clear, and you will feel it in the room when you address us now, Jakov. Enlargement is no longer a promise for tomorrow. It is a priority for today, and things are finally, and I use the word finally, moving. And with that, Montenegro is leading the way with half of the accession chapters closed, 2 more yesterday, bringing the total to 16. Work on the accession treaty has now begun. It also shows that the hard work of reforms is delivering results, and that enlargement is truly a merit-based process. It also shows that enlargement is not charity. It is a strategic choice. It is a win-win and a strong geopolitical investment that makes our whole continent safer, fairer, more stable and more prosperous. So let me make an important point here, as I did in your parliament when I was so honoured to address your national members. As we approach our first enlargement in more than a decade, we should not shy away from addressing any fears or concerns on all sides on this debate. The answer is not to dismiss the fears and concerns, but rather to address them honestly, to show in concrete terms the tangible benefits that enlargement brings, and to build the confidence and trust needed to move together. So, dear President, the European Parliament has always been the strongest advocate for enlargement. We will continue to stand with Montenegro every step of the way as we work together to bring this process across the finish line, because soon we want to see Montenegro MEPs in these seats. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And first of all, let me thank you for inviting me to address the European Parliament. This is especially important for Montenegro. Dear Roberta, as you have mentioned, we are now entering in the final stage of our EU accession, and I do want today, in front of all the MPs of the European Parliament in this House of the European democracy, to speak about the progress that Montenegro, which is the front runner among all the candidate countries, has made so far. And to make a very clear message, the message that we have heard also during the recent summit that we have organized in Montenegro, the EU Western Balkans Summit, a very successful one, where we have refreshed a bit the optimism about the enlargement. And that's the message that Montenegro is ready to become the 28th member state of the EU by 2028. So once again, thank you very much for your invitation, and I'm very much looking forward to addressing the EU Parliament.
Thank you very much, Ivan Minovic from Television Montenegro. Madam President, President Milatovic just stated 28 by 28. Do you think this goal is achievable for Montenegro? And President Milatovic, just a short comment about non-papers in terms of the enlargement that are already circulating among diplomacy. How do you assess the attitude of member states? Thank you very much.
Well, I can start by saying that we've always been of the firm opinion that where speed and goals and objectives are fulfilled by a candidate country, then we should match that speed and those objectives. So I can be very clear in saying that we would be a very, very keen supporter to have Montenegro in the European Union as soon as everything is reached, and it could not be sooner. I can be very open.
I mean, let me just remind everybody that the last time the EU Parliament ratified an accession treaty of a forthcoming member state was December 2011. and that was the case of Croatia back then. So almost 15 years ago, and I'm very much hopeful that this European Parliament will be able to also write its own history and ratify an accession treaty, hopefully, at least of one candidate country, which I hope it will be Montenegro. To that regard, I'm genuinely determined to do everything which is needed and required so that Montenegro becomes the 28th member state of the EU by 2028. When it comes to the non-papers that you have mentioned, first of all, let me be very clear that Montenegro is in a very unique situation. We are the only country with whom the European Council has already initiated a working group for the drafting of the accession treaty. And this is something that was also confirmed by all the EU leaders at the summit in Montenegro. But generally on the topic, I tend to see the non-papers as the way of the EU leaders to bring the new momentum generally for the enlargement process.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.